Hi, we're now live.
We are now
So,
live.
welcome, baseliners. I welcome you all to the Baseline Show International. And once again, this is Samrat Kishore. I welcome you to the Baseline Show now onwards, every Wednesday, noontime EST. With me, I have Mark Haddle today and Andreas Friend, both uh, the OGs of baseline, I would say. And yeah, it's a light week this week. The consensus mesh team has been off. They're taking some time off recharging, and they will get back to us with new vigor and energy next week. So stay tuned for that new energy, and let's see what they bring back with them. So today's show, we're going to be talking about some community updates. We're going to be talking about Mark's recent visit to FinTech DevCon, and we're also going to be picking up some thoughts from Andreas about what's going on with the community, and if there are any uh, new baseliners, who've come up, any new ideas, any new blips, which is really finding interesting these days. So that's it from so that's about it. I think I will start first by introducing two events which are really interesting me these days. That's part of the outreach uh, efforts that we do within Baseline. One is definitely ETH India. It's being conducted in Bangalore, and it is in December. So pretty interesting. I have already reached out to the organizers to give a slot to Baseline in some capacity, either as speakers or conducting workshops, or even as sponsors. I mean, we could always explore sponsorship route as well. So that's pretty interesting. And if we are in Bangalore, then we are in the in the habitat of developers in India, and we are going to be talking to people about building Baseline, and also starting to contribute in the various blips that we run. So that's that. There is also ETH Vietnam coming up. That's also a pretty up and coming region, um, on developers, on especially Web3 stuff that people are doing there. There is an event which is being organized in Kuala Lumpur, where I am currently, and on the 14th of September. So I'm going to be presenting Baseline for ETH KL. That's a ETH chapter which is running in Kuala Lumpur here. So there are these exciting events coming up, and can't wait, to participate and to present Baseline, and attract more people towards becoming baseliners. There's also one interesting event which I missed, which is FinTech Singapore. Um, it's probably the biggest FinTech festival in the APAC region, which is happening in Singapore. It's in the end of September, I believe. No, it's November, I believe. So yeah, so I've also applied to be a speaker on that, presenting Baseline. So let's see how we fare there, and if we hear back from them on the speaker proposal. So really excited about these up and coming events, and especially on this side of the world. Where I am currently, it's very interesting. The way we can, with the Baseline community and the outreach team, efficiently led by Mark, the way we can take the Baseline messaging across the world. So with that, I pass on the baton to Mark. Mark, why don't you tell our viewers about what transpired in FinTech DevCon?
Okay.
So and you sort of start with what inspired to you to even be there.
Well, it's kind of interesting, and actually, want to kind of right on the coattails of what you just said. When it comes to a lot of these Ethereum focused events and stuff, I said right now, we're kind of in a steady state world right now where everyone's waiting to see what's going on with the merge from Ethereum to proof of stake. You've got a lot of people just anticipating, we just don't know what's going on. And I think this is something that has been sandboxed, and it has been walked around plenty of times, that I think that the merge will go a lot smoother than a lot of the naysayers are predicting. I almost want to equate it with the whole Y2K conundrum that some of us remember. The switch from '99 into year 2000. And it basically was a non-event. And so I am sitting back here thinking that the merge is going to be somewhat similar, to where it's going to be similar to the same, to where it's just that we're using a lot less energy having to mine blocks now. So I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. And you have a lot of people that are working on use cases that are Ethereum based, that I think are waiting to see how that's going to affect anything that they're working on. And it's just this uncertainty. I mean, I think that the apprehension is quite overblown. And I think a lot of this, from an operational and from a user level, is going to be largely imperceptible, but time will tell. But people don't really like uncertainty. Markets don't like uncertainty. And I could definitely feel a little bit of that when it came to the FinTech DevCon. So just got back last week from FinTech DevCon, which was held in Denver, which was largely technical and solutions based when it came to financial services sector. So a lot of the focus is on payments, but a lot of it is also on, we have to address the privacy when it comes to sharing data or insights in a privacy preserving way. And a lot of them are using various different solutions, such as shielded API connectors. And all of this is a way to maintain a compliance function and a compliance footprint, so that when it comes time for you to do your reporting, that you're not having any gaps, or you're not having anything that might raise some suspicion as far as protecting your user as well as your counterparty data. A lot of the solutions out there, aside from APIs, you are having, there was one blockchain based solution, and they were actually not at all, didn't have any qualms about sharing the fact that this was blockchain. It's really interesting to see how they're actually starting to handle the backend infrastructure, as far as how do you maintain all of this sensitive data that needs to be contained and needs to be protected from any type of prying eyes, or anybody that's not, should not be, having access or visibility into that type of data. And so it's really a conundrum, which, how do we actually share this, but without sharing it? But we need to be able to complete whatever workflow or work step environment, or whatever collaborative function that we have within FinTech, whether it's going to be credit analysis, or whether it's going to be debt functions, or whether it's going to be handling the actual payment rails. Anytime that you're relying on data to make an impactful decision, that makes that data a lot more sensitive, because it could be misconstrued, and because you are making potentially life-changing or business-changing decisions. That's why that data is deemed to be really too sensitive to share. And so going there and presenting as baseline protocol, it was a novel approach that was very well received, because we're saying we are not trying to actually have the sharing of the data. And we realize that most people within this environment, within the FinTech environment, say, I need to see it before I can believe it, or before I can act on it. And it's like, well, you can't do that under the data privacy framework, or because of the security profile, or our competitive position and our policy regarding sharing any type of sensitive data. So how do you actually cross that bridge without actually crossing that bridge? And a lot of people have kind of thrown their hands up and said, there's no way we can get around it. The best way that we can do is just use this same friction process, this reconciliation action that we've been using up to now. Baseline resonated quite well at the conference, because the approach to where we are not actually showing you the data, But through zero knowledge, we are showing you a mathematical proof that our data sets across our borders are in synchronization. And we're keeping it as simple as it's supposed to be, to where it's like, we cannot share, we cannot share this data for you. I can't show you this secret, but I can show you a mathematical proof that proves that we are aligned. And I can now make that proof available to anyone that needs to have it for either their reporting purposes or just their simple validation. And a mathematical proof will cross that threshold because actual showing of the data cannot. And that really raised a lot of eyebrows and pricked up a lot of ears, because they're like, wow, okay, this is a way to actually make this happen. Whereas it was a solution that a lot of people had pretty much kind of given up on, to saying there's no way of actually doing this because we're hamstrung by these data privacy laws or just this security best practices. We just can't do anything. And it's like, well, yes, you can. And it is a novel way of actually achieving that goal without having to step that far outside of your operational profile. A lot of people were very curious to find out how we did it, and thought that we were fairly new. And that's one thing that I, definitely paid attention to was, we probably should be doing a little bit better as far as getting the messaging out, because, and really when articulating the solution, illustration, you still have a lot of people that are sitting here going, this just seems way too simple. And I'm like, well, no, that's on purpose. We are basically proving synchronization within the multi-party environment. And that, on its own may sound boring or not really impactful, but if you sit there and you look at what that actually translates to when you have this multi-party environment of all of these external parties that need to collaborate, but either can't or are unwilling to do so, but yet they can still go ahead and do it in a way that doesn't even take them 1 degree outside of their comfort zone. So, people are like, in order to solve something of this magnitude, I'm just conditioned to think that I have to, make a substantial investment either in architecture or infrastructure, and definitely education around that. But yet you're coming in basically saying I can use my existing systems of record and I can actually prove synchronization in a multi-party process environment. And we're like, yes, it is that simple. And they just, it's almost like, we used to lament that, with those of us that worked in blockchain, that just articulating the concept was a little bit of a heavy lift, because it did have so many areas of complexity and introduced a lot new nomenclature and terminology. But at the same time, we're just wondering, I wish it was a lot simpler. Well, that's what Baseline is about. We are making it as simple as possible. And instead of blockchain as this single source of truth, we use Baseline as this proof of consistency, as well as this root of trust. Because anytime you need to rely on anything, if there's going to be, any dispute, or if there's going to be a gap in reporting that is going to, gain the attention of people that, these regulatory agencies, many of which are now have been given enforcement action. They've been given badges and guns, and to while they can't imprison you in the criminal code, they can basically fine you, and if they have determined and have issued that you owe a fine, you have no one to advocate for you in your defense. So best defense is to have your reporting as tidy as possible. And right now you have so many people saying, well, my reporting, because it has to include elements of transactions and data that I do not have custody or insight sharing ability into. How do we actually complete that reporting? So Baseline is what makes this Baseline is what makes all this possible. And again, you have so many people that sit there and say, how is it that simple? So But we have been video unavailable. We have one of our audience has come in and said that is everyone seeing the YouTube just fine right now? I'm getting on the chat
Yeah, I
thread.
just saw that. I was gonna go check.
So shout out to David Youngblood, one of our OGs over here, who's sat there and said, "Hey, uh, something from where I'm sitting looks a little bit different from where you are sitting."
Yeah.
So, but
Okay.
that be,
Awesome.
but
So the
another thing, we still kept resonating with the idea of that baseline is not a product, it's not a platform, it's not a coin, it is a technique, it is a set of tools and libraries to allow you to share data, or at least share the inside of that data and prove that it is consistent, without having to go back and forth and play this game of go fish, till you realize that you are that you were set up. Um,
mm,
and of course, one of the things that was really caught a lot of attention at the conference, the entire financial world relies very heavily on Excel. And that is probably one of the most impactful, I would say, prescient uh, uh, projects that we did within Baseline was the baselining Excel, because it is so ubiquitous within the financial services industry. And this is a way to where you've got instead of having to send snippets of a spreadsheet and email it, or any other workaround to where you've got to get somebody on the phone to say, hey, this is what I have in this cell, F1 right here. Do you have this? Is your value, and again, you can't say exactly what it is, but this is a way that they can actually share.
yeah.
So that's again, it's one of those where we need to keep doing a lot more of the socializing around the simplicity and the relative lightweight implementation, as well as the integration portion of it, because we're not requiring that you rip and replace certain elements of the architecture and replace it with expensive new hardware. This is a way of saying, no, this is an overlay technology that is going to use your existing environment. Why do we make it more difficult than it has to be? And I think a lot of it has to do with the thinking that, hey, if we're going to have some type of solution that is going to be as far reaching as this is, it has to involve us spending a couple of $1 million. No, it
Mm,
doesn't.
right. Right.
And if you think a look at the operational benefits that you have from it when it comes to cycle times and the reconciliation efforts and the make good efforts, when you find out something went wrong, because when someone finds out that something is out of place or something went wrong, the natural instinct is just to stop everything while we make all of this detective work to find out so we can get back on track. And so that involves a lot of other users having to sit there idle, and you lose their focus, and then it gets kicked into tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and days turn into weeks, and you still just have this process environment where everybody is not working off of the same data set. And wouldn't it
Right.
be impactful to know and be able to prove that you're all working off of the same data set? Because when you start to scale out a multi-party process environment, say in a supply chain, for instance, someone makes a change or an update, but they don't let anybody else know about it within their process community.
Absolutely. And to that point, I think I would like to plug in the research report which is currently underway. So
Mhm.
the IDC has been hired very recently, and they are doing a research for us to find out the kind of inefficiencies that Mark was just talking about. So they're doing supply chain efficiencies. The last baseline show we had walked through the entire proposal that they have submitted, and sort of moving ahead with that. And as we speak, during this baseline show, as it is happening, and there are multiple interactions which are happening with various sponsors and new companies also. We are reaching out. People can chime in. People can contribute to the fee which is being paid to the research firm and be a part of the study and eventually the report. So that's going to be a major boost for baselining. They're trying to find out uh, what is the real need. What's the genesis block for, if you will, for multi-party coordination, or is there really some merit in doing multi-party coordination? And if so, what should be the, what are the current hurdles that the industries face? I think that's the main part that I'm looking forward to. What are the hurdles? What is keeping people at bay from eliminating those inefficiencies? A lot of CFOs and financial controllers, they already know about stuff which is going on in their operations.
Well, and yes, and another, topic that was really flying around the conference, involves a lot of the, advancements within AI ML, to where they want to go ahead and start making a lot of these strategic decisions based on aggregated data. And a lot of times they have to go and find those data sets on a third-party marketplace. And generally, by the time it's made available for sale or for purchase on a third-party data marketplace, whoever contributed that data, that raw data to begin with, had to put it through a hygiene process that is going to scrub it from anything that might be privacy non-compliant. So they're going to need to do a hygiene process, and then the platform, the third-party marketplace, is going to do its own type of hygiene process. And by the time all that happens, it's not uncommon that you will see the data that is now made available for purchase could be a couple of months old, and that doesn't really work for several use cases that are going to require a lot fresher, more dynamic data. That may need to draw from weather patterns or from market dynamics. These things that move very quickly, and we can't really operate effectively off of data that is weeks or months old. We need something a lot more fresh. And within baseline, you can say, all right, this is a way that you can actually prove synchronization of the data, and we can actually start to, through zero knowledge, maybe start to gain insight onto that data without having to take any custody of it. Not that we would, because whoever that we're relying upon isn't about to give up custody, either because of data privacy or because of just their competitive position.
Right. Sorry, I got a little distracted. There's some police action going on. Andres, you were saying something.
I wasn't, but it's so the Mark, what you're describing is the problem that every industry will have, right? Mm-hmm. Just give you one simple example. If I just send in a privacy consent form to a very large financial organization on behalf of my daughter, stating that they're not allowed to share any data with third-party affiliates. Third-party affiliates are companies like Akamai, right? Broadridge, right? They are the third-party aggregators that are doing that. Now, if it comes out that they did share, I can sue that financial institution and Broadridge or Akamai. Why? Because, or my daughter can do that because she's a California resident. Now, Mark, you can't, because you're not a California resident, which means the California Consumer Privacy Act does not apply to you. But I can, and it found they can. It's a similar penalty as with GDPR, which is 4% of revenue for every single violation. So yes. What hasn't happened yet, which I think must happen, is that organizations must be sued. all the time in order to force them to actually comply and actively manage the consent process. So the consequence of which is that you need to bring not the data to the AI, but the AI to the data, which means you need to learn on sparse data sets, right? So the lazy approach, which has been done so far, is assembling these very large and often very biased data set that allow to train the models to make predictions.
Yeah, I think the real antithesis that we need to double click on with our messaging is really around like the centralization of data. Why are we creating all these honeypots for violations and for, it should be easier to manage, but yet it's not, right? Because to your point, with California data privacy and GDPR, like, okay, so it might be one party that is in violation, but if they've shared that data with alternate parties, they have no control over what those alternate parties are doing with that data. And the fundamental flaw in the process right now is that we're cloning and mirroring data between all these different data repositories with no trail of control to determine who does what with this data. It's beyond just even first-party data around personally identifiable information. Think about all the corporate secrets that are sitting out there in Snowflake that are going ungoverned because they think just because they have it in a central source that they're now streaming these pipelines to alternate parties with, whether it's for a fee or for not. Like, as soon as somebody takes control of that data, you lose your control as to if it's part of a hack or if it's held hostage. Like, forget about even just the blatant right to be forgotten. Like, there's a lot of risk floating out there in the ether in this category because nobody can take a solid inventory of what their data assets are, where they are, and who has access to them. Like, I think that's the real tip of the spear that we should be punching through with, that says, look, just because it's been done this way for decades doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be replicating this data all over the place. Like, there's just data bloat everywhere. And with that comes considerable concerns.
The only way to avoid that. Sorry,
I haven't seen much litigation in the violations of this regard. But like, it's only a matter of time before class action suits are spinning up in the U.S. like they've been in the European markets, right? Yeah. For data privacy.
Right. Yeah. And it's accelerating. Look, the penalties are basically the first step to really what you need is a staking mechanism, right? You need to because right now you just have the disincentive, right? But there is no way to immediately punish you, right? It takes a very long process, which is the court process, in order to uncover and then punish violators, right? Which is obviously which is very inefficient. Makes lawyers rich, but that's about it. And there's the even though the punishment is high, it only says up to, so it's in the discretion of the court how large that penalty is. So what would be much more efficient is if you control if you're a data controller of a data set of a data subject, right? You must stake to that, which means you must put actual capital that you have at risk. That's a much more efficient way of doing it, and then just like doing it, just like we've learned from various consensus and validation protocols in the blockchain space. So learn from that It's like file, it's like that's how optimistic rollups work, right? They say they file, you can file a dispute, right? File a dispute, right? It's like, oh, well, nope, that's not true, right? I can see if a data set of mine has been published only if they are required to show a proof, and I can prove it, right? Because I hold the corresponding detailed information that allows me to verify whether my signature basically on the digest is correct. So what really is required is to build not data marketplaces. It's a global staking mechanism where you need to pay upfront in order to utilize data. You need to put capital at, you need to put capital, not pay me. Put your capital at risk, right? And the more data you put out, the higher the capital you need to put in, right? So that's the only way how you create economic rationale around data sharing. So
brilliant idea of staking, actually, because currently I think against regulatory risk, what people do is they have some provisions on their liabilities, right? I would
but that doesn't mean
consider to be
anything.
similar to that.
That doesn't really mean anything if it's on the balance sheet, because you're not really if you're putting it as a long-term liability, the capital requirements against that liability are low.
True that.
Right. So it's like no, it's like the only way how you constrain this is by forcing organizations to put operating capital on the line, right? Reducing their available cash if they want to monetize. That's the only way how you can constrain that, because then organizations have to make a business decision. Is that capital put to use best by staking because I want to sell that data, versus, oh no, I actually should invest it in another part of the business and not sell the data.
That's a healthy debate that I think candidly we should be having more often here, with some other thought leaders that have the old way of thinking to defend the case. But fundamentally, Andreas, it's going to come down to one of two things to force organizations to do that: regulatory governance, right? Legally change that, or the consumer sentiment has to fundamentally change, and they have to have a way to take the power back to say, pick your brand. I don't trust you. I don't like what you're doing with our data. We're not going to use it. I mean, look at what happened. I put it in the chat with Facebook finally agreed to come to a settlement with the lawsuits for the Cambridge Analytica stuff, right? Like, they just admitted that they are at fault. But yet, what is the course of action for the general social media user out there to reclaim the custody of the data that Facebook has been exploiting for decades and decades and decades? The only recourse you truly have is to just sign off and delete your app. But it doesn't do anything with the historical data that's been out there that they've been selling for psychoanalysis and psychographic exploitation through entities like Cambridge Analytica. And Cambridge Analytica isn't the only one that's been doing this.
So there are really three things that the regulators, in my personal opinion, must do. And this will also improve data hygiene for businesses also, but it's like, and it's also makes it simpler. So number one, you must publish the number in just like just like you have with outstanding shares, the number of outstanding data sets that you A, hold, and B, that you're trying to to sell, right? Again, provably so. Anybody? How can you do that? Wait a second. Oh, baseline. Never mind. Right. So that's one. Two, they must, and you must put operational cash based on the number of records at stake, right? So that there has to be a regulatory process for that. Guess you say there is no precedent for that? Yes, there is. It's in Frank Dodd. Remember the old days when in the overnight paper market, right? You pledge collateral and you double and triple pledge the same equities.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
No longer true, right? So why is that no longer true? And you know, it's like State Street is making a shit ton of money, and BNY Mellon by being the third party in the in pledged collateral. You actually need to transfer the collateral to third parties, right?
Yep.
For the overnight paper market process, right? Or generally speaking, if you're pledging collateral, Frank Dodd mandated that, right? Similarly, right? So that is your stake, right? That's the equivalent of the stake. So anybody arguing there is no precedent for that, yes, there is. And does it work? It works really well. Right?
Yeah, John, I think we should start our own lobbyist firm, Andreas, right? We've got the baseline lobbyists here for data privacy and rights. Let's do it. Let's go talk to our friends up on Capitol Hill.
Well,
yeah, I don't have
the ITC report first.
They're all dead.
Yeah, precedent has been set.
Yeah, but I mean, and thirdly, you need to mandate a challenge and validation process where anybody can just simply publicly then challenge, no, this is you're selling my data set, and without consent. And if they can furnish a proof, then yes, a portion of that stake is slashed, right? And you know, return to the general public. And the you know, could be a group of charities, or it just goes into to the federal government, and the other one gets back to the person whose right were violated. So, you know, with these three things, and again, it becomes basically like an exchange, like a NASDAQ or NYSE, right? It's the same thing, right? Outstanding shares, you know, why not also then, if you want to buy them, purchase them, fine, you can, but make it transparent. Right now it's intransparent, right? These sales are all private sales. Yep. Right? And again, with baseline technology, you could do this in a way that is privacy preserving.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I think that is you know, it's like if you really want to do something about that, that is in my opinion a way forward, with approaches that have been proven that A exist and B have been proven. So it's not as if there's no precedent for that. You're just combining them in a new way.
Well, I think in the previous process environments, there wasn't enough visibility for enough of the parties, or at least the people that were adjacent to the transactional environment, that they didn't know that certain assets could be encumbered. They could be pledged more than once.
Exactly, because it was an intransparent process.
Yeah, it was very intransparent process, and that's why when you had the overnight paper, people said, "Hey, I can at least just check a box to say that yes, these assets, this collateral I'm basically using to cover the exchange, is good enough. But yes, I'm using the same one 4 or 5 times just so I can go ahead and cover, and complete the transaction. Another insight that I got from a couple of vendors at the conference was, when it comes to AI and ML, to where you're going to have the data officer or someone who has managerial or admin or oversight authority over the output and the reporting of whatever their AI ML engines have come in, and they said I have to put my name on that. So I am taking that leap of faith that there is as little garbage in, so that I will have as little garbage out, because again, I'm signing my name to it. And should it become, wrong, the insight, or if it produces, a value that, doesn't really have any type of utility to it, I've signed my name to that. So I want to be able to have at least as much confidence that I have enough of a hold that I have the least amount of garbage in for garbage out. So
basically, just like the CFO that has to put their signature under a 10K at 10Q. In fact, the Investment Banking Act should be from a regulatory reporting point of view should be amended. And if you're misstating data sharing, it's like, again, you're baking this into the existing regulatory environment using existing regulatory reporting structures. You're just adding data reporting on that too. It's like the best hygiene is the light of day. Any publicly traded company must publish that.
Yep.
And not only must publish what they have, but from whom they have it by name, and they must publish. So the entire data supply chain must be transparent.
Yeah. Well, right?
That's utopian, but that's very interesting. And we continue our trend of giving billion-dollar ideas on this baseline show.
Well, there are some that I'm aware of that are working.
It requires a regulatory it requires additional regulatoatory framework. There's no other way around it. It's not going to happen any other way.
The law does need to change, and there are programs at work like the one NDA process that's allowing people at a corporate level to finally get together and agree on, look, let's all just work from a common disclosure agreement around confidentiality, with standard language that's acceptable regardless of the venue, right? As opposed to worrying about, for a simple concept, whose paper are we working for, and what attorneys are trying to take into consideration anything that could possibly go wrong. How do we simplify that process from a regulatory perspective? But they're also applying that principle to data privacy as well, right? So there's one DPA that's being led out of the UK. So how do we actually get to a standard data privacy agreement between multiple parties to determine who has control over what can we share, what can't we share, that coincide with the NDA that we're already putting into effect? So but you're absolutely right. The laws do need to change for this to fundamentally occur. The only way that can happen is if us and all the listeners on the Baseline Show, write your Congress people, make it an issue, raise our voice to take the power back. That's the only thing that we can do. And we have to band together to do it.
What we need is a super PAC funded by crypto whales.
Let's talk to Joe and see if he's interested in
a few more. Since we now have a precedent of $1.6 billion of dark money funding right-wing causes.
Yeah.
Why not do the same thing, right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until the laws change, why not?
Until the
You're
laws
absolutely right.
Until the laws change, exactly.
So, and I would tell people, like, in the meantime, Baseline, we're in the business of minimizing uncertainty. to the point that it can be,
Yeah.
in multi-party.
Yeah. But we have to make it a priority, because you have all these organizations that are trying to be social good doers, right, around their brand and reputation. This is one of the biggest, easiest things that they can do to walk the talk, right? Provide trust and transparency with how they operate and how they behave, that there is marketability around it.
Well, that's the
And
best
some
kind of
leaders get it and
outreach
some
efforts
don't.
Baseline can have. I was just saying that's the best kind of outreach effort Baseline can have. And Mark, will you be leading that lobby?
Sure.
Let's have a lobby for a lobby.
We need a pack. We need to baseline community needs to create and fund a pack.
A data privacy pack. Let's do it.
A data privacy pack.
Yeah, that's the coolest pack.
I think it's coined right now. I'll get that going, gents.
Shall we do a summary? Shall we do a quick round the horn of the community and say what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I was just trying to come back to the event about which we started talking about. So let's just quickly conclude that, and we can come back to the community questions. But there are people who are posting questions on YouTube, and guys, please, whoever is watching us, do.
Oh yeah, so it's like yeah. Let's do the questions. If there are people with questions, let's answer those questions.
Definitely. Jack Waring is fighting alone those questions right now. So there's one question which came. Actually, this is the most pertinent one, which came. Is it possible to change baseline chain from base ledger to maybe Polygon or BNB or some other chain? If possible, who decides to change? So to that, Jack has responded that there is no baseline chain. Baselining is a technique, and base ledger is a way to store proofs. All right?
That's correct. It's like the
Absolutely.
CCSM. The CCSM is you can, if the baseline operator, right, the operator of the baseline stack decides to switch a chain, and by the way, the standard actually has a should requirement that a baseline protocol implementation, or BPI, should support multiple CCSMs.
Yeah.
So it's
then there's a follow-on question. Yeah. There's a follow-on question to that. So it will always be base ledger, i.e. proofs being stored. And to that, Jack has said, no, base ledger is only an option. Which is
you can do whatever you want. You can put it on a private DLT. You can put it on Ethereum, on Polygon, on Avalanche, on Solana if it doesn't crash. Sorry about that. Halt. Cardano, Tezos, EOS, Lisk, Bitcoin for if you want to.
Well,
right?
and
Bitcoin.
Also graphs. I mean, as far as Hedera,
yeah. What it's like what you want me to go through a few hundred public chains?
No, I'll post a note. I'll post a link to Coin Market Cap. You could just
exactly.
Well, I mean, and one thing in listening, at the conference, there is no small amount of blockchain fatigue right now. I mean, we've seen a lot of the evaporation, the cratering of a lot of the crypto pricing and stuff, and so there's just a lot of blockchain fatigue going. We got really excited about this for a long time, and here we are, 6-7 years later, and while the thinking and the ways of looking at the architecture have evolved, and so have the use cases, you still have a lot of this blockchain fatigue, to where people go, oh, it's another blockchain pitch, and That was one thing at the conference that I'm saying, we use blockchain, as a bulletin board for the proofs, nothing more. I mean, there is nothing actionable. There's nothing identifiable that is going to ever be put on that blockchain. And in the off chance that you were able to channel enough brute force horsepower to decrypt one of those proofs on the blockchain, all you would get would be the plain text of the mathematical proof. There's nothing actionable there that you can actually do anything with. So
Yeah.
If you can do that, then the entire cryptography technology stack is done. If you can if you can do that, because then the logarithmic Diffie-Hellman problem is, if that's not hard, then you can reverse hashes, and then good luck, everything's done.
If you're doing that, there's other valuable use cases to pursue beyond like trade information between parties, right? Let's be real. Like if you're cracking cryptography at that level, you're in a whole different stratosphere of a criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
Wait, are you saying that the NSA and the People's Republic Army are criminal enterprises?
How do I put beeps here?
I'm shocked.
Censored.
I'm shocked that you would do such accusations. Unbelievable.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Oh well, you're insinuating. But it's like look, it's like there's a lot of mindset that still equates a blockchain with a database, and so that's a problem, because we're, in contrast to the internet, which was basically developed in I'm using sort of a picture here, in smoke-filled back rooms by primarily middle-aged white men. It's in hiding. This is being done in the open by 20-somethings. So of course you will go through a lot of iterations, and of course it is going to be misused, and of course you'll do mistakes, and of course you repeat mistakes, and of course they're all public, and everybody is laughing about those on Twitter, because Twitter is now the equivalent of the what was that in the Middle Ages when
the town crier.
Well, you were put into that contraption where you had to stand, and then people would make fun of you. That's basically the equivalent of the pillory.
The pillory,
exactly.
Or the stocks, and
exactly, the pillory.
Okay.
Thank you. The name escaped me. So it's like that. That's Twitter is basically the equivalent of that. Now it's a digital equivalent of a global pillory. So it's all good. But speaking of blockchain, so we have a couple of new grant requests that came in. One is for creating a combined digital asset and identity wallet, so DIDs and verifiable credentials together with digital assets. And there's first a design proposal has been made, and that is going to be incorporated into a privacy preserving invoice application, which is another grant request. So that's interesting. Obviously, the test harness RFP is still out there that people should submit grant requests to, as well as the one they can submit grant requests for the digital asset and DID VC wallet, as well as please start incorporating EDDSA signatures into digital asset wallets. Please, someone do it. So that's there. We have also another one, a grant request for the simple reference implementation. of the baseline protocol. You know, you have Stefan, Onion, Monique, Bishrashi. They all have submitted a grant request that is being reviewed. So I'm right. The TSC has lots to do, and it's
Absolutely.
its next meeting. We need to get that going. There are a lot of PRs, or there's a lot of activity on the baseline repo happening right now. A lot of simple reference implementation, SRI issues, and PRs over the last couple of weeks, even in the last week. So go join the fun. The baseline standard has now been updated to include alt text for all the figures. That has been a long time coming. You know, didn't know how to do it, but our lovely Charles from the EA taught us how to do it properly, and that is now in. So that's really cool. So we're ready to basically now cut a release of a pre-draft. So this is good. The PGB still has not finalized the requirements process yet for the standard. So we're still in a holding pattern there. But we have there's lots of incoming interest from other SDOs to utilize baseline with what they're doing. The Metro Ethernet Forum, for example, they're looking into the baseline pattern for their LSO blockchain
awesome
initiative.
Awesome.
Mobility on the blockchain initiative as well. So there's and we're talking about very large organizations, you know, AT&T, Verizon, and others on the telecom side, and Ford, GM, USAA, and so forth on the mobility on the blockchain initiative side, or MOBI. So yeah, so that's sort of like a quick around the horn on the what's going on in the community as far as I know of. So anybody else, please add more to that.
This is all very exciting stuff, Andreas. Thank you for for speaking on that roundup. This is amazing. We are also very close to two new sponsors. I think that's something which is closest to my heart right now. I mean, we really need people, and with the new twist, with the new, I would not call it twist, I would call it amendment to the rules that we have, which is now people can come in and contribute to the grants without even being sponsors. I think that is something, that is one route which a lot of people are interested in. So that is something which I'm definitely taking very seriously in the conversations I have with the huge players here. That if you want to dip your toes and see what baselining is for you, you could just sponsor a grant and start baselining. So yeah, that's something which is really exciting. And if anybody is listening to us and can make an introduction where we could take baselining, please do so. We are all reachable via social media and also on our Slack channels. Go to baseline-protocol.org. I'm just going to display that on YouTube as well. So any final thoughts before we close down? We are almost at the end of the hour.
All good stuff happening again. Let's go get baselining.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's get baseline and let's keep baselining all across the world. So please do tune in into the next week's show. That is going to be the September General Assembly. I'm going to be particularly excited about this one because the next day is going to be my birthday. Yay!
Hey!
So
early happy birthday! Yeah.
Yeah. So that's coming. Of course, it comes every year. But this one is special. There are tons of things happening, and I'm particularly excited about this thing, which I was putting in so much effort since 2 years, and it finally started taking shape, and it's doing so many wonders, which is baseline. So with that, this is Samrat signing off from today's Baseline Show. Thank you all for making it, and thanks to all the viewers who are watching us live and who will watch us in future. Cheers. Keep baselining.